Yes, sir.
Well, much like Steve says, I really don't see a big change in the revenues or the costs we're going to have. This amended budget 2010 number on our costs, if you look, is actually a little high. The cost of energy we've purchased this year is actually going to be down considerably from that. So it looks like we've got a decrease in cost and an increase in revenue. It's actually an increase in cost and an increase in revenue. I think if you look at a different spreadsheet that shows some projections we might have, that number to me is a little misleading. One reason we showed a real slight increase in the revenues and the costs is we're expecting some wholesale rate increases to come down the pipes possibly later in the year. That might coincide with the start of our fiscal year. Yeah, and I've got some numbers built in here for that. I had the benefit of James looking over this with me, and our rate consultant that helped us do our rate study a little while back kind of looked at it with us and didn't really see anything out of line. And if you go back and look about 4 or 5 years on our sales, even with some of these territorial lawsuits and even with some of these big expansions we've had at Thomas Hospital and the schools and other places, they're relatively flat. If I go look at monthly averages across the year for about 5 years' worth, they're really pretty flat. And without a mass exodus of people or no big businesses that I know of that are coming to our system, I really don't see a lot of change in the amount of units sold on the electric side. I think I'm really expecting our operating expenses to be a little lower next year. We've got we've got a few things that have gone away. Some of our big legal bills have drawn to a close, and we've settled those, and we don't have any hanging out there on the horizon. That's probably the biggest one there. And we've got several things on our prioritized list that we turned in back in June on the capital additions, and most of those, nearly all that, are going to be done with city forces. So when you see pole replacements, that's not a contractor, that's us doing that, and that's why you would see our salary line item not be our total payroll. And that's where that difference is coming in. My total payroll is close to $1 million, but I'm telling you, I'm only going to have $760,000 in expense.
Yeah, I just want to underline that point, because I do see a lot of pole replacements as I work my way around, and the city crews are working on it. But it's my understanding from an accounting standpoint, since that's an infrastructure improvement, we actually capitalize that, right? The cost of the pole, new wire, if there is any, and the cost of labor. And so that doesn't go in here, it shows up in your capital.
That's right. So if you look at our total payroll numbers, that's where that difference comes in. So if you look down through a lot of these capital replacement things here, nearly all of them, if it's not a strict material purchase, we're going to be able to do in-house. Nearly all of it. We've got some pretty capable guys who do a lot of different things. One thing I think is reflected on Greg's cover sheet that's not reflected in what I turned in June were some things that got added through the AS400 and radio upgrade process that may have gotten tacked on the back of some capital things that utilities might outlay, but they're not on the list I turned in June. Mr. Drew, they're not going to be in that hard to read spreadsheet to me. That has it prioritized 1 through 8, 1 through 9, whatever the number is.
You do show vehicles,
yes,
as your big item.
Well, I showed it as my #1 item because I've got 2 or 3 and I really need to get to that. And I didn't take the time. We've got, Jill, help me out, how many vehicles have we got to maintain? It's probably over 50 by the time you count trailers and all that. So I didn't list every single thing we got. I just said vehicles, lump sum, and I've got a separate spreadsheet where I tried to keep my vehicle purchases flat.
I've got 3 separate line items here on this one for vehicles.
Probably 3 separate years, perhaps.
She's looking at 5-year capital improvement.
Yeah, I was looking at Okay.
Are we,
Different years.
that's the SCADA system.
And I would like to ask, I do not know what this SCADA system is. Could you please tell me?
I can. You wanna know what it stands for or what it does? It is the brains that sit at the warehouse and tell me when something has happened on my system. For instance, Monday morning, the lights blinked at City Hall. Currently, the brains that called me was Mayor Camp, said, did you know our lights should blink? No, I did not. They did, and we went and found our problem. The SCADA system will tell me all kind of things going on with our system and record that historically. It'll even give us control of some of these things in our substations remotely if we need it. But the biggest thing is monitoring what's happening in our substations.
It's the electronic big brother, right?
It is. You know, I've got a fiber optic ring to every substation, but it reaches out there and it says, hey, I'm blind. I'm not connected to anything. I can't do anything. And so, you know, if I want to know what's